Hi, my name is Ryan DeLuz, and I'd like to help you get started with Alive Pioneer and your new GP8 amp. If you haven't read the GP8 amp user guide, you can open it from the link shown in the description, or by clicking the GP8 guide button in Alive. If your GP8 amp has a place to put batteries, insert two AAA batteries into your GP8 amp, then connect the red, green, black, and white leads, as shown. Connect the GP8 amp to a USB port on your computer, then open Alive. If it's your first time connecting the GP8 amp to your computer, wait for a minute for it to automatically install the GP8 amp drivers before opening Alive. When you open Alive, if you see this message, disconnect and reconnect the GP8 amp, then reopen Alive. If your GP8 amp uses batteries, replace or adjust the GP8 amp batteries. Battery life is around 100 hours. Once Alive is open, choose or create a user. On the Alive main menu, you can set the feedback here. This feedback selection is where you choose what feedback is used for Alive environments and games. For example, if you want to train dual drive with temperature, you would set the feedback to temperature manual or automatic, and then from Alive games, choose dual drive. Let's start by training smoothness using ECG. ECG measures a more accurate heart rate than BVP, which can result in a higher smoothness, so you may wish to increase the smoothness difficulty from standard to intermediate or higher. You can measure ECG wrist to wrist, as shown here in the Alive GP8 user guide. You can use disposable or permanent electrodes. If you use permanent electrodes, wipe down the wrists and sensors with alcohol wipes first. Attach the permanent electrodes from the small plastic bag and hold them in place with the wristbands. If you're training wrist to wrist, moving your hands will cause movement errors. So if you want to play a game like Dual Drive, move one electrode to the ankle, or put the white and black leads on the chest. You can place the green electrode anywhere, but if you're going to also train skin conductance, place the green and red electrodes on the index and ring fingers as shown. If you're new to ECG training, it's good to check the signal quality. From the Alive main menu, choose Graph Training, and then change the graph to the raw BVP ECG signal quality graph, and hit play. If the processed ECG clearly shows light blue spikes that are rising above or near the yellow line, we have a good, accurate heart rate measurement. If you are measuring ECG at the wrist and move your wrist, you will see a heart rate movement error. Alive attempts to automatically filter these from the heart rate shown in the bottom graph here. You can click the Show button in the bottom right corner to show the Alive bottom bar with the breath pacer and smoothness slider. Now that we have a good ECG signal, let's switch to the smoothness spectrum graphs by going to Change Graph and choosing Smoothness Spectrum Graphs. As I breathe in, my heart rate rises, and as I breathe out, my heart rate drops. As I relax and breathe slowly and regularly, my heart rate changes become like smooth waves. So let's see this. I'm going to breathe in and out. In and out. If I tense, start breathing more quickly or erratically, or tense my body, my heart rate changes become irregular and my smoothness drops. So let's see this. I'm going to tense and breathe more erratically. The smoothness slider, shown in the bottom right, increases when your heart rate changes create a slow and smooth wave-like pattern. Staying relaxed and breathing slowly, with around 7 to 13 seconds each breath, creates this wave-like pattern. If you're familiar with heart math, this is a similar measurement to coherence, but responds more quickly. If your heart rate goes through one complete up and down wave in 10 seconds, this is a 0.1 Hz wave. You can see the resulting increase in the 0.1 Hz bar in the spectrum graph. To help pace your breathing, you can use the light blue breath pacer in the bottom graph area. From the main menu, you can now also open the clinical control panel and choose whether or not to use the adaptive pacer. The adaptive pacer responds to your heart rate increases and decreases, synchronizing the pacer to your heart rate changes. When the adaptive pacer is off, you can change the pacer speed using the plus or minus buttons in the breath pacer area. When the adaptive pacer is on, the plus and minus buttons are not shown, and the breath pacer constantly adjusts to your heart rate changes. From the clinical control panel, you can also turn on breath pacer and reward sounds. If you turn on reward beep, or anything that includes reward beep, you'll hear a pleasant ding at the end of every breath if the dominant feedback is above 80%. If you turn on an option that includes breath pacer sounds, you'll hear a pleasant sound indicating each time you need to breathe in, and then a lower pitch sound for each out-breath. Now, let's get familiar with training muscle tension using EMG. If you are not trained to do EMG feedback, I strongly recommend you read the Alive GP8 user guide section on EMG training. Begin by attaching 3 disposable sticky electrodes to your arm as shown. The same sticky electrodes are used for ECG and EMG training, so your electrodes are probably labeled ECG electrodes. To train a muscle, place 3 sticky electrodes in a line in the direction of the muscle fibers. For an easy demonstration, you can place these in a line in the direction of the muscle on the underside of your forearm. Then, from the Alive main menu, click Graph Trading, then choose the EMG graphs. Click Play. Tense and relax your wrist muscles, and watch the changes in the EMG graphs. When training to increase tension, be very careful not to strain your muscles. In the EMG graph, every time you activate or tense your muscle, the orange line rises. You can also see a corresponding increase in many of the frequencies shown in the EMG frequency spectrum. In the EMG raw graph, you can also see the increase in EMG each time you activate or tense your muscles. The EMG raw graph is in the secondary graph area, which is present on many Alive graphs. In the secondary graph area, you can often change to a different measurement. For example here, the drop-down under EMG raw allows you to select EMG relaxation or tension automatic measurements, temperature, skin conductance, or breath pacer. I've currently put the temperature sensor on my index finger, held in place by the finger sensor already there. So, under EMG raw, I can switch to temperature and see my current finger temperature. For EMG, if you have electrical interference or a bad connection, you will see a large spike around 50 or 60 Hz. The spike shown here on this screen is small and won't interfere with EMG training. If you see a larger spike, you may wish to reapply disposable electrodes, add conductive paste like 1020, choose a less hairy training place, or move the GP8 amp away from electronics. If you're training muscle activation using EMG, a moderate size spike probably won't interfere with your ability to measure muscle activation. If you see very large spikes like this, you need to reduce electrical interference or improve your connection. Now let's train muscle tension with EMG activation. Again, when training to increase tension, be very careful not to strain your muscles. From the Alive main menu feedback dropdown, select EMG Tension Automatic. Then, from Alive Games, choose Night Flight. When I tense my muscles, we fly forwards, and if I relax or decrease tension, we fly backwards. Without straining your muscles, try to maintain tension to continue a forwards flight. If the EMG seems poorly calibrated, you can detach and then reattach one of the sensors to recalibrate the EMG, or go to the main menu, choose EMG Manual, and then manually adjust the starting and target EMG lines. In the secondary graph screen, I can manually set the target EMG and starting EMG values. Then I need to activate my muscles to reach the target EMG state in order to progress forward in night flight. From the Alive main menu feedback selection, I could choose EMG relaxation and then choose an appropriate environment such as the new Petals of Light environment. Now I want to raise this EMG percent to target line. Increases in muscle tension result in a darker and smaller display. As I relax, the black disappears, the music volume increases, and I fly forward through this beautiful environment. When I'm finished training in this environment, I need to press this 9 squares main menu button to return to the main menu. I can now review progress using the Progress Review button. We can now review and print the session using the Save and Print button, or by simply pressing the letter P on your keyboard while in any graph training or review screen, or in the Alive menu. A screenshot is always saved to your Documents, Alive Image Capture folder under your username. After the image is saved, a print dialog opens, and you can press OK to print or Cancel to have only saved the screenshot. There's a lot more to explore, including the new Pioneer environments, emotion training, opening multiple graph screens, a new professional male voice option for the voice workshops, and more. Please take the time to read the GP8 amp user guide to learn about temperature training and to get the most out of your new GP8 amp.